You know what you're listening to?
Is that a trick question?
It's the I Still Love This Game podcast with your host, Matthew Damian.
He's an idiot. Don't listen to this. He's an idiot.
Hello and welcome to the I Still Love This Game podcast. Today's show is a big one. It's an absolutely huge one. And I wanted to get a guest on to talk about the NBA Finals. Obviously, we reached the conclusion of the NBA season, thank God. It was a great finals, though, and I wanted to get a guest on to bring in a different perspective. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get that done. However, not only will we be talking about the NBA Finals, it finally happened. Anthony Davis was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. And isn't that a sad indictment? We are, 2 days after the NBA Finals? The conclusion, we saw an NBA champion, first time ever, a champion outside of the United States, a very dramatic series, a very dramatic playoffs, if you were looking at the Eastern Conference at least. And there is more hype, there is more intrigue, there is more talk about Anthony Davis than what we had seen throughout the playoffs. Isn't that sad? Isn't that damning? And that goes exactly to what I was saying. The NBA is all about hype. There is very little substance to the product, and this is the road they have chosen to go down. They want to appease to casual fans and not fans that actually tune into the game. They want to have fans that want to talk a lot. They want to look at box scores. They want to see highlights on Instagram or Twitter or wherever, YouTube. But they do not want to sit down and watch the games, even the NBA Finals, even though there is so much to talk about. So I'm not going to be one of these people. We're not going to talk about Anthony Davis just yet. We're pushing that to the back of the show. We want to talk about the NBA Finals and, of course, Game 6. So much to talk about. So much to talk about. And where I want to start off with is the heart that Golden State played with. And that was impressive. I know they were injured, I know they were banged up, but they still, the pride that they showed, no one would have questioned them had they had rolled over, especially when you consider what happened in Games 3 and Games 4. But the way that they played, they gave themselves a chance, and it wasn't Toronto necessarily playing down to their competition. I mean, Toronto came out hot. They hit, their first 5 3-pointers? And I was a bit worried because they weren't able to blow the game wide open. Typically in that situation, the team that has taken those punches, so to speak, and they're able to stay within striking distance even early on, they're the team with the momentum, especially if they're at home. Now, Golden State was just hanging around, and how sweet would it have been if Steph Curry had made that shot at the end of the game, the one that he bricked. It would have been very, very fitting that he had made that shot. Win, lose, or draw in Game 7, but that would have been the final shot in Oracle. That would have, it would have been, Hollywood would have rejected it, that kind of script, because it's too perfect. It'd be too neat. But it wasn't meant to be. Golden State, Iguodala played a great game. Draymond Green played a great game. But the reality is, I don't want to use the injury excuse because we've never taken injuries into context at any point, at any time. You have to get the job done. And let's not feel too bad for them, right? Plenty of people have said, look, Steph Curry's still an all-star, clearly. Iguodala, give him minutes. He plays at times like an all-star, not at the foul line, though. Draymond Green, very effective on both ends of the court. He doesn't have to have impressive stats, although he gets triple-doubles quite frequently, but he doesn't have to have impressive scoring stats to be effective. I know Kevin Durant injured, and we'll talk about that too. But the Klay Thompson injury, and how concerning is that? I mean, if you're Golden State at this point, you went from entertaining thoughts of being the greatest team of all time. They've won 3 out of 5 titles. Very impressive. Do not get me wrong with that. But they are probably going to lose Kevin Durant. If they don't lose him, he's going to be out for a season. And same with Klay Thompson. I would suspect that they have a much better chance of re-signing Klay Thompson, but who knows when he's going to come back. These are very serious injuries. And Steph Curry, for all the impact that he's had on the game of basketball, he is not the type of player that truly dominates a game outside of one facet, and that is shooting. If you can take away that shot, if you can contain that shot so he doesn't kill you with it, he is, a fringe superstar player at the best, a fringe franchise player at the best. Would you take, if their shooting abilities were equal, who would you take, Damian Lillard or Steph Curry? You're taking Damian Lillard all day in that situation. So Steph Curry, outside of being the best shooter of all time, he doesn't have a whole lot to fall back onto. And it's a sort of a dangerous proposition because he's been gifted space to operate without the ball primarily because of his teammates. Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green. Those guys, they create space for him. It makes it very difficult to guard him, especially in pick and roll situations. Andre Iguodala is another guy you can throw in that mix too. They create looks for him. And if you double him, you're going to pay the price. Now, if that team starts to fall apart, even if they re-sign them, we don't know what they're going to be if they come back. And it's kind of disappointing. Oh, not disappointing, but this could be the last time we've seen Golden State in the finals for a long time. It really could be. Because I had a guy, Frank, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He tagged me in something on Facebook as an interesting proposition. Should they go after Kevin Durant instead of being interested in signing Klay Thompson or Kevin Durant? Should they go after Kawhi Leonard instead of pursuing and trying to maintain Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant? And that's an interesting question. It really is. Because I don't think it will happen, more or less because I don't think Kawhi Leonard would be interested in that. We saw Kawhi Leonard, he was apparently interested in the Lakers. The moment they got LeBron, he was not interested. I don't think he wants to be the sidekick to anybody. And if he went to Golden State, they would probably view him as the secondary piece, even though absolutely not, right? From a basketball fit perspective, he would close to perfect. I don't think he would be a perfect fit, not on the offensive end. Defensively, yeah, he covered up a lot of flaws for him, but you saw how effective Kyle Lowry became alongside Kawhi Leonard. Can you imagine Steph Curry? Now, the other side of all that is Steph Curry adapted his game for Kevin Durant. Can you imagine how he would adapt his game for Kawhi Leonard? That would be very interesting. I just don't see it happening. I don't think Kawhi Leonard is interested in it. If he was interested in it, it'd be a scary proposition. But you've also got to take into account the bench players, the supporting cast. So I don't know what the cap numbers are, but you'd have to throw some serious money, not the supermax, but at least the max to get Kawhi Leonard. There would be no pay cuts there, the way that Kevin Durant took less. So if we're talking about Kawhi Leonard coming over, I don't know how you keep Klay Thompson or Kevin Durant. It would be more than likely Klay Thompson in that situation. And once again, we don't know what his health would be like. Outside of Steph Curry then, we're talking Livingston, we're talking Iguodala. There's not a whole lot of room to operate under the cap there because you're basically rebuilding. So, yeah, I get it. Steph Curry would be there. But outside of that, I'm not sure if it's a good proposition. I think the Clippers are a great proposition. I think it's awfully difficult for him to walk away from Toronto. They're going to make it very difficult for him. I mean, how do you walk away after winning a title? I mean, you can. You're a free agent, sure, absolutely. But if I had to pick any team that he would be going to, it would be the Clippers. Now, getting back to Golden State and this being their last hurrah, it's frustrating to see them go out like this. I would prefer them to have been healthy and been beaten, because this is the problem the NBA has, right? The product is so skewed towards let's try and get as many eyeballs on this as possible, rather than maintaining the interest of hardcore and genuine fans. So from game to game, you have these unbelievable storylines, whether it's an owner pushing a player, that should have been dealt with, and quite honestly, he should have been given a lifetime suspension. No ifs, ands, or buts. That fan in Utah that said the stuff to Russell Westbrook, he was banned for his life. Why not ban the owner? He actually physically put his hands on Kyle Lowry. But the fact is, the sports media harped on that story religiously. Then they harped on Kevin Durant. Is he going to play in Game 5? They sort of pressured him into that. And then after Game 5, it was, well, the Raptor fans... These are bigger stories in the actual games, by the way. Bigger stories in the results of the games. And then after Game 5 was, well, Kevin Durant should have played. And now after Game 6 as well, all the Warriors were beat up and injured. That's why the Raptors won. I will say that this was a fairly opportunistic championship run for the Raptors. But hey, you can say that about 90% of the titles that have been won in the last 25 years, ever since really the Bulls had won in 98. That was the last time we really saw, okay, they didn't get lucky. You know, they didn't dodge any bullets the way that, you know, the Raptors just won, or the way that the Warriors won in 2015, or the way that the Warriors won in 2017 when Kawhi Leonard was injured, or 2018. Or am I getting the years wrong here? So yeah, 2018 when Kawhi Leonard got injured. Not Kawhi Leonard, sorry, Chris Paul got injured. So the point that I'm making in all this, we cannot use injuries as an excuse, because if we do, that opens up the floodgates to retrospectively look at what titles mean more than other titles. And if you want to say this one feels weak or whatever, you have to hold yourself to that same standard. Otherwise, you are contradicting yourself. But I'm disappointed in the way that the NBA does not focus and market the players and the play. Because right now, if you're not going to be talking about the Raptors winning the title, talk about the heart and the guts and the determination of those Warriors. Talk about that. Don't talk about, you know, whether Kevin Durant should have played or shouldn't have. Nobody forced him to play. That was a decision that he made. Now, was he pressured? Sure. Was he misdiagnosed? Now, that is a question that needs to be asked. Because when we all saw that injury the very first time, we all thought it was an Achilles. And then it came out that it was a mild calf strain. What the hell? Like, really? And lo and behold, when he comes back a month and a half later, what does he actually pop and tear completely? It's his Achilles. So what was it? Clearly, you cannot misdiagnose something like that if you're going under an MRI. It's as clear as... And for everybody that criticized Kawhi Leonard for not trusting the Spurs medical staff, these are the reasons why they do not trust... They, as the players, do not trust the medical staff of the team. Or their number one interest and their priority is... And I'm not a guy that usually advocates for players, but the doctor's number one priority is to the team. It's not to the players, which is unbelievable. There should be a lawsuit here. There really should be for malpractice to mess that up that badly. Can you imagine if he needed surgery on that quote unquote mild calf strain? It was an Achilles all along. Like, that's crazy. That is absolutely crazy to me that they got that bad. And it shows, it gives some credence, and you sort of have to understand why the players view it as a business. Now, the way they screw over fans and the way they treat and respond to fans, that being the players, that is unacceptable. But I totally get the business relationship between players and the teams. Absolutely get that. But when it comes to, I still can't justify the way that they respond to fans. The season is in the books. You know, the Raptors are the champions. It's hard to sort of, you know, put that into words, especially when you consider where they were at this time last year. Kawhi Leonard still was not a Raptor last year. And it's insane. It's really insane. It's a great story. It's a fantastic story for the fans up in Toronto. It's a great story for basketball in general. Because this is the time, like, you don't want to see teams prematurely blow up their squad. You want to see them rolling the dice and trying to get better. And they did exactly that. So kudos to them. Congratulations to them. I'm very happy for them. And Kawhi Leonard, wherever he goes, I hope he stays in Toronto. But wherever he goes, he has established himself as a top 10 small forward of all time. And he's on a trajectory, clearly, to be challenging for the top 5 small forwards of all time. And who knows where he could end up. Who really knows? This guy had one of the great playoff runs of all time. And it's a shame that Kevin Durant was injured for pretty much most of it, because we were kind of robbed from seeing him go through Giannis as well as Kevin Durant. Now, that would have meant a lot. That would have been fantastic to watch. That would have been must-see TV. So we're in the off-season now. And no, I did not take a break, even though I took a breath there. We're in the off-season right now. And to kick things off, we have of course, the Anthony Davis trade. And this was surprising in how quick this was done when you consider how long all the talks and all the drama and how it really hijacked the entire NBA season in the middle of the season. And yet, we're 2 days after the end of the season, and we've got this trade. So I guess before we go any further, we should probably talk about who the Lakers gave up. They gave up Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart. I mean, two really a lot of potential with Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram. And you've got 3 future first-round picks. I don't know if those picks have any conditions on them. You would hope so. Especially after the Steve Nash trade. You would hope so that the Lakers have learnt their lesson with having those draft picks essentially not protected. Now, they were able to hold on to those picks by the skin of their teeth. Or they traded, that when you look at it, they ended up with absolutely none of them. Maybe it would have been better off if they had lost those picks to Phoenix. Because one of those picks was D'Angelo Russell. He was traded. The other 2, Lonzo Ball and Brandon Ingram, they're gone. So, it's crazy, isn't it? But I have mixed feelings about this because you're giving Anthony Davis what he wants. He did sign a contract. He has another season to play. He had to go somewhere, but it's a dangerous precedent because he wanted to go to LA so bad. Now, let's not fool ourselves. The Lakers the Lakers had to give up a lot to get him. It's not like they were getting pennies on the dollar here. And I do like what New Orleans is doing. Clearly, they're going to draft Zion Williamson. Now they have the 3rd pick in the draft, and they have Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram. You would hope that they would, make additional moves for some of their younger players, for some of the veterans that they have on this team, and continue this movement, this youth movement and rebuilding movement, because they have some talent there. And who knows where Lonzo Ball will end up. Because right now he's not reaching his potential, to say the least. Same with Brandon Ingram. They're going to have a fresh start with very little expectations, very little hype. There will be a lot of attention on them, though, especially with Zion Williamson on this team. But nobody's going to predict them to be in the playoffs coming into the season. But they could be a young, fun team to watch, because they're going to play with reckless abandon. They're not going to be concerned too much with any expectations, any exterior expectations especially that they were dealing with from the outside looking in into the Lakers coming into the last season, where people were talking about them at least getting to the conference finals. Hell, they didn't even make the playoffs. That's how badly they imploded. Now, we've got to talk about the Lakers. They were able to keep Kuzma and all this. Good for them. Who else do they have on this team? Anthony Davis, LeBron James. Is Rondo still there? I don't know if he's a free agent or not. He wasn't included in this deal. Brought in a new coach, Frank Vogel, I think it was. Jason Kidd, I believe, is the assistant coach. Maybe they could suit those guys up, or 2 random fans, or whoever, right? Because, maybe Kyrie Irving. Maybe this all goes down a little bit quicker than expected. I said Kyrie Irving, the phone call and all that stuff was planting that seed. Remember, in the middle of the season, that he just so happened to call LeBron just when Kevin Love was there. Maybe they bring in Kyrie Irving, and maybe they're able to make a trade with the Cavaliers, if they have any assets whatsoever left, to bring in Kevin Love. Now, can you still round this team out? And the scary proposition for other teams is, do you need to round it out as much to be competitive with Golden State? Because Golden State's going to be essentially, we're all expecting them to either be torn apart via free agency, or even best case scenario, they're able to re-sign Thompson and Durant, or even Cousins. And then if they're able to do that, who knows what those 3 players are going to be capable of giving you next season, if anything at all. So, very interesting situation for the Lakers. I like the fact they were able to pull the trigger on this deal. I don't like the fact that it happened, though. If I was a Lakers fan, I'd be ecstatic right now, because you're getting Anthony Davis, great player. But we will also see how LeBron James, if we're going to see him turn into Anthony Davis is going to turn into another Chris Bosh, another Kevin Love. It's going to, especially when you have another coach without any championship pedigree coming in. Is this going to be a situation where is LeBron even going to respect him? Because we've seen this in the past. Hell, we saw it last year. It's an interesting situation. It really is. I don't like it, to be honest with you, because of the way it was orchestrated. But if you're a Lakers fan, you've got to be happy with this scenario, because you're trading potential. Because we all know that what's these guys were not going to live up to expectations playing alongside LeBron. So that potential was essentially wasted. If they had waited and mid-season Lonzo Ball is averaging 10 points and 8 assists a game, and Brandon Ingram is averaging 18 points or 15 points per game, do you think they're going to be able to pull this trade off? Probably not. Especially where Boston would have been ready to make a deal. But if they can get Kyrie Irving, this thing the LeBron James to the Lakers thing, there's some potential there for some championship success, especially when you consider that Houston is on the decline. We're assuming Golden State's on the decline. So who is the real threat in the Western Conference? Is it Portland? Is it Utah? Is it Oklahoma City? These teams are typically underachieved, even though Portland made the conference finals. Is it Denver? There's not a big juggernaut standing in the way there. Ironically, the biggest test may just be in the Eastern Conference. Now, that would be something. And how, imagine the fireworks if we see LA and Boston again in the finals. It will be very interesting. I'm going to be excited to look to check that out if that if that starts to develop. So, guys, sorry for the delay in the episode coming out. As I said, I wanted to get a guest on. That didn't happen. We will be going back to weekly episodes moving forward, variety of topics. I don't have a schedule yet, so if you want to send me through some ideas, I'll be happy to listen to them. But I will come up with something for next week. I hope you enjoyed the season, even though I didn't really. I'm glad it was over. And isn't that sad? I remember saying to somebody that I was actively going for the Raptors in Game 6 just so I didn't have to deal with a Game 7. And when you think about that, I'm meant to be a fan of this, right? But I wanted desperately to not have to watch a Game 7 of the NBA Finals. That's how turned off I am by the product of the NBA right now. I think that says it all. Hopefully they can turn that around. But anyway, guys, send me through some questions, some ideas for topics. Happy to hear them. If not, just stay tuned for next week and you'll be getting a brand new show. Thank you for listening. I hope you have a great night. If you're out partying, because it is a Saturday night. Oh, happy Father's Day in advance, by the way. Happy Father's Day to my father, too. But if you're out partying, please drive safe. I will catch you guys on the next episode.